What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the MLB Swing for the Fences show here on the Run Pure Sports YouTube channel, talking Tuesday's Big 10-game MLB slate, full slate of baseball coming up. First, 5 games of the slate start 20 minutes roughly before the official action gets underway, at least over at DraftKings and FanDuel. Awesome day of baseball ahead. We've got big tournaments on DraftKings, FanDuel, and looking forward to this one. Steve, how you doing on this Tuesday afternoon?
Yeah, when I first opened up the schedule, I was like, oh man, these early games aren't on the slate. It's, pitching's tough. And then as I was doing the playbook today, I kind of like a bunch of different spots with the 10 games that we do have. So I think it'll be a good slate. We've got some really upside offensive spots around the league that we'll talk about. Last night was a bit frustrating. Was all over the Rockies, and of course, being on the wrong side of a Coors game never feels good.
No.
But yeah, it should be a good slate tonight.
Yeah, I had 4 lineups yesterday. I had Nolan Gorman on 3 of the 4, who hit the 2 home runs off the chalk. Justin Verlander, so was arguably, fairly low ownership too. So, arguably one of the best plays of the slate. I had a lot of Vientos. I had really good lineups. But I had no Coors Field at all, no Reds in my lineups, and nothing.
I actually found a way to play Wheeler with Skubal with 5 Rockies. So I was like, Jazz, Wheeler was getting out of jams, like, oh yeah, hell yeah, this is gonna be the night.
Yeah.
And the Rockies scored 3 early, and then just kind of did nothing after that. So
I think the Red stack hunted me down. Still had a profitable night, but was looking pretty good early, and that's just how it goes. If Coors Field goes absolutely nuts and you don't have it, it's going to be tough to have a big cash. Discord's been popping over at Run Pure Sports all day. I know a lot of people excited for this one. I've been in the lab most of the day trying to nail down these picks. On a pretty good run recently, and we'll hope to keep it going tonight. So with that, let's get into the slate. We do got 10 games to talk about. And I think all of them are interesting in some way, at least. So let's get to the first game on the slate. Minnesota Twins and New York Yankees. Total in this one has actually been falling throughout the day. I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. It's down to 7.5 now. We've got Luis Gil pitching for the Yankees, who, we've ridden Luis Gil all the way to the damn top. I was on him before the season even began. I mean, he was a complete unknown, essentially, coming into the year, into spring training even. Pitched so well in spring, he won a job for the Yankees out of spring training. Frankly, not much was expected to him. He was pretty solid to start the year. And then, the calendar flipped to, I think, roughly May. And he has been on an absolute tear ever since then, culminating in these last 3 outings where he's averaged like 36, 37 fantasy points per game over the last 3. Now, he has had a very good run of matchups. Angels, Seattle, and the White Sox in his last 3. Doesn't get really any better than that for a right-handed pitcher. I guess some caveat, perhaps, grain of salt, whatever you want to call it, with Luis Gil's recent performances. But, man, love what I've seen from him. And then Bailey Ober on the other side. A pretty good pitcher, but I did, kind of just looking at his profile against this Yankees team. The thing that makes Ober good, is like primary defining characteristic, if you will. He doesn't walk anybody. He's a little bit like George Kirby in that respect, where he does give up his fair share of home runs. Strikeouts are decent, but the big thing is he just doesn't allow many base runners because he doesn't walk anybody. But if we're looking at this Yankees team, if you're paying $6,300 for Soto or $6,400 for Judge, you don't really want walks anyway, right? So I think when you look at the overall matchup for these Yankees hitters against someone like Bailey Ober, I think it's better for Judge and Soto than just like, the WOBA or the ex-WOBA or the ex-FIP, whatever you want to, kind of the ERA estimators would indicate. So I like these Yankees power hitters a lot. Specifically, Soto and Judge, Steve, are on the 2 of them are on another level. And then Judge is like one more level above even what Soto is doing, just setting records, frankly. And I wouldn't say it's gone under the radar. It's Aaron Judge, it's the Yankees. But man, what he is doing, kind of did a deep dive on him today, is just absolutely ridiculous right now. I love both of those guys. You're going to get them cheap because they're so expensive. And then Luis Seal, talk to me about him. I've got a couple more things to say, but I've rambled long enough on this game to start at least. Yankees fans, what do you got for us here, Steve?
Yeah, I think if the time of year was different with what Judge is doing right now, like if it was after the NBA Finals, I think it would be, a topic for a lot of like the sports shows. But it's a weird time of year for it to happen, I guess. I'll start with
he's hunting down 70 home runs right now, like the way he's going. It's crazy.
Yeah, and Soto's like right behind him too. I actually was going to ship that afternoon slate on Sunday before the Soto top of the ninth home run. So that was a little bit tilting, but the Yankees have done me well this season. So I'll start with Heel. Like 3 straight over 30 DK. He's really making the loss of Garrett Cole just like so much less painful for this Yankees team overall. But like you said, we're playing him at 7K, 8K. He's at 10-8 here at home against a team that's got a bunch of left-handed power bats. I like Heel a lot overall as a pitcher. I don't think I'm going to get to him on my main team. I am going to have him in play because he does have that, 30-plus break the slate type of upside. Strikeout rate, second to only Jack Flaherty on the slate. I think, from start to start, he does have more bust potential than most guys that are going to be priced around 11K just because, the walks can bite him at any time, I feel like. And he's done really well avoiding them over the last 3-4 starts. I don't think that's something that's gone forever, though. So we'll see. I do love the Yankees bats here. The game total has come down, but the Yankees team total has kind of stayed where it was this morning. Love the Yankees here, like you said, against Ober. Basically a definition of a league average arm, maybe a bit better, but just an extreme fly ball arm, 27% ground ball rate. So lots of fly balls with the contact. He's had some home run issues this season. Now has to go to Yankee Stadium. We've talked about it, pretty repeatedly on the shows that I've been on. I think the Yankees are the best lineup in baseball against right-handed pitching while they're currently healthy. And I'm going to continue to jam Yankees stacks against like non-elite right-handed pitchers. So I think the Yankees are in play for like a main lineup stack. I think they're going to be way under-owned on the slate, given that we have Coors and we have the Cubs at home in a great spot. So yes, sign me up for Yankees bats. Heel, more of a guy who's in play. I'm seeing about 25% on him right now in Saber. I'll probably be about the field in my 20 lineups there.
Yeah, Judge, SaberSim, our friends at SaberSim have Judge projected at 4% owned and Juan Soto at 3% owned for the two best hitters in baseball right now against Bailey Ober, who is the second, who allows the second fewest ground balls that he generates of any starting pitcher who's thrown at least 50 innings. So giving up a ton of fly balls, and man, like you said, doesn't walk anybody. But you don't want walks out of Judge and Soto if you're paying those prices for them. So
that is
absolutely
annoying.
those guys.
That is so tilting when you get the 6,300 Soto 9-pitch walk in the first inning.
Ober won't get in. He refuses. He refuses to walk dudes, and so he's like, if you can hit home runs, go ahead. Well, Judge and Soto can certainly do that. So I played 10 lineups tonight with that big 5-5-5 on DraftKings. I'm planning to play 30% each of Judge and Soto, so way over the field there, and feel pretty good about that. Luis Seal, only other things I wanted to add. You mentioned the walks have come down, and we're not sure if that will be sustainable. I think that's a fair point, and we definitely don't know for sure, but I kind of think it's a real thing with Luis Seal. Watching him pitch these last few starts, he's actually let off the gas some until he needs a strikeout or until he gets, a 1-2, 0-2 count. You'll see him kind of live 95, 96, and then he'll ramp it up to 98 or 99 once he gets ahead in hitters. In that last start, I actually had him to get 10 plus Ks at plus 650 or something. Didn't end up getting there, only got 9, but He threw 95 pitches out. And the last batter of the game, he knew he wasn't going to get to come back out for the ninth. He actually went 8 innings in that one, a career high. But he was like, his last pitch of the day was like 99.4 miles per hour on his 95th pitch. Like, he clearly had more than enough, in the tank. Like, I think he could have easily finished that game and threw 110, 115 pitches. So I think Heel, as crazy as it sounds, is still getting better, is still learning to pitch. His confidence, if you just watch him out there, is sky high right now. He doesn't fear anything. He's not afraid to give up a few, let him hit it a little bit for the first, if they want to put the ball in play on the first or second pitch of the at-bat, he seems a little bit more willing to let that happen. And then when he gets ahead of hitters, man, he's got some nasty, nasty stuff. So, we think maybe 25% owned for Luis Heel, something like that. I want to be over the field, so that probably means 3 lineups out of my 10 tonight.
I'll be about the same.
My preferred roster construction tonight is to spend down at starting pitcher where I can. It's hard to do on this slate. Honestly, the expensive arms look good. The cheaper arms, not so great. I'll have some bite your mouth guard and get in the pocket and swing type of starting pitcher plays that we'll talk about as we go along.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah. We'll get there. But I do want to get as much Luis Heel as I can. And, if I like the cheaper bats better on the slate than I do, if I didn't want to get guys like Judge and Soto, I would have no problem just sending it on Luis Heel. I do think he's likely going to have another very, very strong outing here against the Twins. Any Twins bats at all for you? None for me on the slate.
No, I think Heel's too good. I think that the argument against him wouldn't be to stack the Twins. It would just be that they hit a bomb or two off of him.
Sure.
And we'll talk about the other 10K guys. I definitely prefer him most of the 10K pitchers.
Yeah, if you're playing one team, are you starting Heel? That would just depend on which stack I'm going to. Listen, if you like a cheaper stack or some cheaper hitters, absolutely, you can get Heel in there. Wouldn't say you have to start that way, but yeah, I do think he's certainly a good option. And yeah, I mean, if you want to play Heel, he's an awesome player. There's no question about it.
For sure.
Just a matter of making him fit with everybody else, obviously playing with the salary cap constraints in daily fantasy sports. Let's get to the next game. We do have another 10K pitcher right off the bat here. Corbin Burnes going for the Baltimore Orioles. Burnes has been good this year. Certainly, ERA, whip, all that stuff has been good. The strikeouts have been, for the most part, a little bit underwhelming. He's actually, I think, had a declining strikeout rate in 4 or 5 straight years for Corbin Burnes. Listen, he's still a very good pitcher. I think he deserves this 10K tag. But I don't think I'm paying this 10K tag in my lineup tonight. I'm actually leaning having no Burnes at all. Does look like the market is lower on Burnes than the other 10K pitchers. He'll be lower owned than Luis Heel. The other guy, Shota Imanaga, we'll talk about, of course. It's going to be higher owned than Burnes as well. So I don't think Burnes is a bad play at that 15%-ish ownership, but I don't love it here against a contact-oriented Blue Jays lineup. Just watching him pitch, I just don't have nearly the same confidence level of that Burnes is going to rack up strikeouts than that Luis Heel will. So I'm not going to play Burnes. I'm also not playing any Blue Jays bats against him. And then I do think the Orioles are at least interesting here. Looks like the Blue Jays going to go with something of a bullpen game. Trevor Richards is scheduled to open. He pitched 2 days ago, so I would assume just 1, maybe 2 innings for him. And then looks like Bowden Francis coming back. He made a bunch of starts in April. They did not go particularly well. He had an ERA of nearly 9, 1.7 base runners allowed per inning. And yeah, just wasn't great. Actually had some hope for him coming into the year. Did not pitch well. Did face a relatively tough schedule, but he's got another tough matchup here, of course, against the Orioles, who I do think are pretty interesting in this spot. Don't love the park in Toronto, but Yeah, I mean, Gunnar Henderson, like I think he's, you got Judge and then Soto and then Gunnar. I would put in, kind of a group of several players, maybe in that next tier of overall hitters, power, speed, leadoff spot. I mean, he's an awesome play too, 6,100. Another hitter that makes me want to spend down a little bit at pitcher today when I can. So he's my favorite there. Beyond him, I do think, Rushman at catcher, Santander, and then two cheap guys at the bottom of the lineup. Austin Hayes, who has done like almost nothing the entire year, hit 2 home runs yesterday, double dong for Austin Hayes. Actually, it's 2 home runs of the entire season, his first 2. So that's interesting because he, in the past has been a pretty good hitter. He's still 2,300. Like him a little bit in this matchup. The rookie Connor Norby didn't look great yesterday, but he is 2,500 at second base, does provide some savings. So way more interest in the Orioles side in this game. Nothing that I need to get in my lineup. And then, curious where you stand on Burns. I think you already said you like Heel best of the 10K guys, but are you getting Burns in any of your lineups tonight, Steve?
Yeah, Hayes was an all-star last year. Isn't that wild? Yeah, so like he's cheap. Like you said, they brought up Norby. I do like the Orioles stacks here against what Toronto's going to be putting out there with Richards and then Francis. Expected ERA over 6 for Francis so far, just not really a major league quality starter. Walking up, ton of batters, over 2 home runs per 9 so far this year. O's were kind of quiet in May, but they've kind of woken up over the last week plus here. The price tags of everyone that's not Hayes, Norby, and James McCann's actually getting the start tonight too, are pretty high. So, the O's are going to be tough to stack, kind of like the Yankees here, where, they're expensive in a good spot, but they're also not going to be owned because of the context of the slate. So I do like the O's here. I'm with you on Burns. Just kind of seems like a better real life pitcher than 10K fantasy asset, I think. Yeah. He's been great. Like the O's haven't had a pitcher like him in 20 years. So, it's been nice to have him, but, I'm not going to click him over Heel and Imanaga here. So yeah, for me, Burns was my last cut for arms. And then the O's, I will have O's 5 and 2 3-mans in my pool here. Gunner's been awesome. He had another leadoff bomb last night. I think he's got 6 or 7 leadoff home runs already this season.
It feels like it's 20, but yeah.
I know. Every time the slate starts, it's like, well, Gunner just started off with a bomb again.
Yep. Yeah, he's been awesome. And yeah, the Burns thing, I mean, Heel, I feel just like is kind of clearly the more dynamic of the 2 pitchers with the better strikeout matchup. And then Imanaga, I think the jury's still kind of out on just how good Imanaga is, but he gets the White Sox. So yeah, that makes Burns clearly a distant third in the 10K group. And then there's a couple guys right around 9K, Fried and Kirby, who I like a little bit better than Burns, at least with the discount as well. So yeah, no Burns for me. Wouldn't be shocked to see him go out and put up 25 fantasy points, but I do think his ceiling is at least a little bit limited compared to some of the other arms in and around that price range. Let's go to Atlanta and Boston next. This one in Fenway. Should be pretty good hitting weather here. 70 degrees, humid, little bit of winds blowing out to left field. We've got Cutter Crawford pitching for the Boston Red Sox. He's been pretty solid this year. He is a very fly ball heavy pitcher, or at least he has been this year. Hasn't given up that many home runs. I would expect him to give up more home runs going forward. Still don't love the Braves offense here against him, though. He's been good enough where I think you can find better spots, but it's a great place to hit. And I don't think Crawford is, totally infallible. So yeah, the Brave stack, I think they're in play. I'm probably going elsewhere for the most part myself. And then Max Fried pitches against this Red Sox team. And somehow this Red Sox lineup just keeps getting worse and worse. It seems like as the season progresses, they've obviously got Rafael Devers, a great hitter in there, but man, beyond that, like the other big threat here, I would say is like Rob Refsnyder in second, who's been really good against lefties. A lot of strikeouts in this Red Sox lineup. Max Fried, started off the year with some really, really rough starts and went negative in his first 2 outings. And then his fourth start of the year, only 2.7 DraftKings points, has been mostly really good since then, has proven he can go deep into games. He's gone 7+ innings in 4 of his last 5 starts, all of which, in my opinion, were tougher matchups than the one he's got here. And then, you throw in the duration that Fried can give you with increased strikeout upside due to this matchup. And I think Fried at 9K looks like a really, really strong play. Ownership-wise, Sabres got updated to him being the highest owned pitcher on the slate, which I think is fair, given everything surrounding Fried. So, 30% or so Max Fried in the flagship DK. I'll probably be right around that number, maybe a little bit over. I'm not playing Crawford, and I don't really love a lot of bats in this game. It would be the Atlanta side that I'd be way more likely to go to. What about you, Steve? Braves and Red Sox here.
Yeah, on a slate where it seems like the price tags have been creeping up on guys who have been pitching well, like Heel and Imanaga, just hasn't really moved for Fried. He's been awesome for 7 straight starts. He had that weird start against, I think it was the Padres, where he didn't score well. I basically played him for 7 straight starts. So I've been watching all these. That was a bunch of ground ball hits. If you look on his DK page, 14 ground ball outs, 1 fly ball out. He's just been Framber-esque with the ground balls, been able to get out of innings. But you hit the nail on the head. This Boston lineup, they just lost Abreu last night. So the lineup that they put out, clearly the worst this season, I think, so far for Boston. And it's a team that's been struggling to hit lefties anyways. They have by far the highest strikeout rate in baseball against left-handed pitching over last month. I think Fried deserves to be the highest owned pitcher on the slate. I'm going to be playing him in my main lineup tonight. He's basically the only concrete decision I've made for my main lineup so far. Fried locked and loaded here. He'll be my highest exposed pitcher on this slate. And then, Braves, I'm just kind of throwing my hands up at this point. I played him again a bunch over the weekend. That didn't work out. Someone tweeted at me that I haven't seen a team in just plus spots every single slate for 2 months like the Braves have had to start the season, and it's just not working out. So I will be going elsewhere. At these price tags, I like the Yankees more. I like the O's more. So no Braves for me here. I do respect Cutter, even though he's kind of in a rut right now. Wouldn't be surprised if he had a good game here.
I might play one just full 5-man Brave stack in my 10 lineups and just completely avoid them otherwise. But it might not even get to that. Might just go elsewhere. I will say, would you be shocked at all if the Braves dropped 12 runs in Fenway Park in a good inning? Of course not, right? So.
No, but I say that every slate when I play them.
No, I know. But
I did on Saturday when they were in that spot.
You can't say that about most teams, right? Most teams, it would be kind of shocking if they scored 12 runs. The Braves obviously still have the firepower to get it done.
I wouldn't be shocked, especially since I'm not playing them.
Exactly. Now that I know you're not playing them, maybe I'm thinking about jumping on board. We'll see. I'm with you. I haven't made too many concrete decisions. I've got the 10 lineups. Hand building those, of course, and we'll see. It'll be a little bit of a scramble in the hour after this show to get those 10 lineups locked and loaded like I want to. But exciting night of baseball ahead for sure. All 3 of these games that we've talked about so far are pretty intriguing, and frankly, most of the ones that we'll talk about have at least something interesting in them as well, including this one: battle for Chicago White Sox and Cubs. The rumor in Discord is that Stevie Storms. Steve, what were we calling you? Stormy Boyden. Stormy Boyden has some concerns about the weather here in Chicago. I think it's going to be fine, but you're apparently the thunderstorm expert. So you think that maybe this game could be in some doubt. We do have Shota Imanaga pitching for the Cubs, who, I mean, listen, he was due for some regression. You can't just live all year with an ERA below 1. It was never going to happen. Came crashing back to earth last time out against the Milwaukee Brewers, who, frankly, have done that to quite a few pitchers this year. That was his first even remotely bad outing, I think, of the entire season. Negative 7.7 DraftKings points in that one. Would certainly expect him to bounce back here against the White Sox, who they lost by far their best hitter, Tommy Pham. They did replace him, though, with Luis Robert, who will play for the first time in a couple months here. Robert's been striking out a bunch in his rehab assignments. I don't, definitely a boost to this lineup, but I could see Imanaga easily mowing down Robert along with, frankly, everybody else here. I don't like Imanaga as much as I like Luis Gil. I just don't trust the skill set quite as much, even though Imanaga's been awesome results-wise. I get that. It's not the bad start last time out that really has me off of it. It just doesn't have quite the stuff, in my opinion, that Luis Gil has. Still, though, I think a good play here. Some risk of thunderstorm. I'm more worried about like the wind direction shifting, which can happen in Chicago, as you know, more often when there's storms in and around the area. That's kind of my concern, that maybe this game isn't quite the offensive bonanza that it's predicted to be on the Cubs side, who do have the highest team total of the day, surpassing both teams in Coors Field, sitting over 6 runs right now. So certainly, I would assume the bookmakers have a pretty good handle on what's going to happen, in this game in terms of the wind and all that. So it's hard not to like the Cubs here. They get Chris Flexen, who is, I think, on the short list of worst starting pitchers in MLB, who's, regularly starting every 5 days. And then a terrible White Sox bullpen behind him, too. So you have to like the Cubs here, assuming the weather holds and all that stuff. A really good spot. Not, huge amount of wind, but enough where the ball will be flying in Wrigley Field. And against Chris Flexen, I mean, I don't really get the argument against the Cubs other than, you're worried about the weather or something like that. So, and ownership, of course. I do think they're going to be the highest owned team on this slate. But over to you, Steve. Cubs, White Sox, and Chicago. What do you got?
Yeah, I felt better about the storms during the game call until Roth tweeted that storms are going to happen mid-game. So now I'm probably fucked there. No, like it's perfect hitting weather here. When you have a threat of storms, that means it's humid. It's hotter than usual. It's in the mid 80s here, which is really warm for this time of year in Chicago. Starting with Imanaga, he's been just awesome at home. Pretty much unhittable at Wrigley so far this season. Like you, I'm not really concerned about that last start. Just like the way he pitches, like he's up in the zone with 91, 92 fastballs, and then the splitters down. He's got to be pretty pinpoint to be dominant, and he has for the entire season. My concern with him moving forward as we get into summer, DC, is like that combination is going to lead to more bombs, I think, during the summer and more volatile outings for him.
I think he's going to give up quite a few home runs in games like this where it's hot and some wind's blowing out. Now, not necessarily against the White Sox, but yeah, just kind of going for it.
Yeah, I mean, the matchup is awesome. I just long term, I think he's more of like a 9K guy than a 10-5K.
Me too.
So the spot is great. I'm concerned about the storms. I think that's enough for me to be lower than the field on him. Sabres got him around 30%. I think I'd rather play heel here. I really like Fried and the guys around 9K like Flaherty and Kirby that we'll get to. So I'm coming down on my Imanaga exposure. And then Cubs, just hot, muggy, humid spot against Flexen, like you said. They have salary savers in their projected lineup, at least. Swanson's still under 4K. Happ finally starting to drive the ball. He's had a really good week or so after struggling for like all of May. So like Happ is cheap. Crow Armstrong's probably going to start for 2,900. Amaya 2,200. They're just easier to stack than like when we get to the Reds. Like the entire lineup is just so expensive in Coors here. So I'm with you. I think the Cubs end up the highest owned stack on the slate
for sure,
given this weather in combination with the price tags, right? Like they're just so easy to stack. But it's an awesome spot. If you fade the Cubs, it could go bad. I was at that insane win game at Wrigley 2 weeks ago when just no one could get the ball in the air. Arcia hit the only fly ball.
And, that was a Braves game, right?
Yeah. Statcast had the win adding like 58 feet or something to his bomb, which is just insane. But no one else can get the ball in the air. But yeah, I mean, the wind is real, even though it's busted a couple times this season. Like that's not because of the wind. It's because guys are not getting the ball in the air. So just an elite spot for the Cubs. I'm going to keep an eye on the Storms for the Imanaga exposure. So I'm in on this. I just haven't decided if I want to play Cubs on my main team if they're actually going to be higher owned than Coors.
Yeah, YOLO, play the White Sox. We've seen crazier things that happen. I mean, we saw the A's just absolutely bomb Chris Sale. Luis Robert, I'm going to play him on at least one lineup. We know the power that he can bring to the table.
I wish he was cheaper coming back from the injury. He's $5K on team.
Just checked. Roth isn't sure if they can play. They're going to play. They're going to play ball. Steve, I know you're like kind of hoping this game gets some weather, based on so you can shove it up everybody in Discords. But
might be screwed now.
Yeah, I do think the game will play. I think if I was going to play this game, I think I would. Or if I wanted to play the White Sox, if I want to get weird and play the White Sox, I think I would play at top three: Corey Julks, Andrew Vaughn, Luis Robert. Robert's expensive, but Julks and Vaughn are very cheap. They've got at least a little bit of power. And, I do think we both think Imanaga is going to give up his fair share of home runs going forward. This game does start, an hour after lock. So it's going to be one we're going to have to wait. I think we're going to have to, see what the wind looks like, see what the storms look like as it locks, and then make that decision. Obviously, we'll be in Discord to help out with people who do need to decide that for themselves. So that's Cubs, White Sox, certainly an interesting game there. And the Imanaga thing for me, even if you take out the weather, I still want Luis Gil over him at that essentially the same price tag. 10 lineups for me, not enough for me to make the pivot just to get it, to balance ownership or whatever. I do prefer myself, Luis Gil over Imanaga tonight. Let's go to Detroit and Texas. Another pitcher we've been on since the beginning of the year, Jack Flaherty. Man, what a bounce back season for him. Does baseball do a comeback player of the year? If they do, I assume Jack Flaherty's got to be near the top of that list. I don't know if there's a betting market if they do that, but Flaherty has been fantastic. I believe he leads baseball in strikeout percentage. I think he's like second or third in K minus walk percentage, which in my opinion is the single best single stat if you're trying to judge the effectiveness of a pitcher. So Flaherty's been awesome. I've played him pretty much every time he's pitched. I'll have some exposure here, I think, but it's kind of a tough matchup against Texas. Obviously, a lot of dangerous bats in that lineup. And Flaherty has had a pretty good run of games schedule-wise, too. Although he's faced a little bit of a difficult schedule recently and has pitched well despite it. So, I don't really have anything bad to say about Flaherty. I don't think he's quite as good as he's shown either, but clearly pitching continued pitching well, just maybe not quite at this level. He'll go opposite Dane Dunning, who is, just a very, very kind of pedestrian type of pitcher. I mean, he deserves to have a MLB rotation spot, no question. He's just a number 3, number 4 type guy. 7,900 kind of feels like a lot for him, but he does get this Tigers team that just doesn't have much punch at all. They lost Kerry Carpenter, their second best hitter behind Riley Green. I don't hate Dane Dunning here. If he was 6,500 instead of 7,900, I'd be interested for sure. At this price point, maybe one of my 10. Flaherty, probably 1 or maybe 2. And then hitting in this game, not a ton I like. Riley Green, I think, is a decent play on the Tiger side. And then Corey Seager would be the guy I would be most likely to play on the Rangers. But I won't have a ton of exposure to this game. What about you, Steve? Tigers and Rangers.
Yeah, Flaherty's been awesome, right? One of the biggest surprises, I think, the fact that he's just been able to kind of sustain it and just cruise through start after start. 9 Ks in 3 straight starts, going deep in games, 5 straight games of like 100+ pitches, or at least close. I think he had a couple 98s, 99s in there. Leads the slate in strikeout percentage on the slate with Luis Heel on it. It's pretty gnarly.
He's just been a beast, man. He's just striking out everybody. It's crazy.
Yeah. Leads the slate in expected ERA and an xFIP, 2.03 xFIP, man. Texas, like you said, isn't a super clean matchup like the White Sox or something like that. But the difference in price tag, I think, is huge here between Heel, Imanaga tier, and Flaherty. I think 9,200 is pretty good for how consistent he's been. I'm not that scared of Texas. We used Scooble last night against him for 1,500 more, basically. I like Flaherty here. I think it's close between Flaherty and Kirby. I think more people will click Kirby because of the matchup, but I think Flaherty's got more upside than Kirby in the same price range. I was really hoping to open this slate today and see Dayton Dunning at like 6K. Seeing him at 8K, I just can't do it. He just doesn't have the upside that I need from a guy in that range. Like, it's only 1,000 more to a really, really strong tier, I think, in Fried, Flaherty, Kirby. So no Dunning for me. I actually hope that he gets owned here. I just don't have much faith in his pitching ability to be priced up at 8K. So for me, this game is Flaherty, no bats. I've been using some Colt Keith as a one-off at second base. I think, he's an okay stick, and he's cheap at a position where a lot of the stacks that you want to have don't really have a good second baseman anyways. So I always keep him in the pool.
Yeah, our guy Squid here, loyal member of Discord, assuming it's the same Squid, I think it is. What's interesting about Flaherty, you say he's pitching over his head.
He's not.
The numbers indicate Flaherty has been like one of the more unlucky pitchers, frankly, in baseball. If you look at it, whatever you want to look at, FIP, XFIP, xERA, Sierra. I mean, he's earned this price tag and these stats. Like, if you want to say he's like faking the strikeouts somehow, okay. But I think that's pretty tough to do. So, yeah, I do like Flaherty here. Kind of talking myself into him a little bit, looking at the matchup. Yeah, I think it's, again, not great, but it is a good place to pitch for sure in Texas. And Flaherty's been getting the job done no matter where he's pitched, or frankly, no matter who he's pitched again. So, yeah, Flaherty's been awesome. Dunning, if he was cheaper, I think he'd be interesting, as you mentioned. That is the first 5 games of the slate. We've got 5 more to talk about. The show looking like it'll run overtime. No surprise there on a big 10-game slate. But if you are watching the show, hit the like button. We do appreciate that. And, of course, we got all the winners for you every sport over at Run Pure Sports. We got Travis Mangone, most importantly, driving into the WNBA street. So sign up, DC15, 15% off your first weekly or monthly payment for that sweet Travis Mangone WNBA plays. St. Louis and the Houston Astros up next. Andre Payante pitching for St. Louis. Actually pitched pretty well, at least results-wise, in his last start against Cincinnati. 6 scoreless innings in that one. Shout out Kevin Fallick. And he'll go against Spencer Arrighetti, whose overall numbers on the season still look bad, but a lot of that was a horrible first outing for him. It's been solid since then. I'm not like a giant believer in Arrighetti, but I do think he is the safest of the cheap starting pitching. I got actually one guy who I actually do like better, straight up. But Arrighetti is going to be, I'll say, the highest owned, I think, of the cheap starting pitching at 6,700. He's going to give you 90-plus pitches pretty much every time out. And, yeah, I mean, he's got to be in play here against the Cardinals. I will say, Wasn't on the Verlander train yesterday. Was on some of those bats against him. Nolan Gorman, Burleson. This St. Louis Cardinals team started off horrible. They're starting to hit just a little bit. They're not quite the pushover that they were at the beginning of the season. I don't think Arrighetti, I said he's one of the safer cheap options. That is true. I don't think he's anywhere close to completely safe in this matchup. I'll probably have 1 or 2 shares of him just because I'm trying to spend up for bats where I can. But I still like these Cardinals bats. Nolan Gorman, my home run call yesterday, hit 2 of them. I'm going back to Nolan Gorman in this game again. But Burleson, Brendan Donovan, even Goldschmidt starting to hit a little bit. I kind of like this top of the order for St. Louis against Arrighetti, who is going to be pretty popular, we think, on this slate. And then Andre Piante, for me, not at all in play. Astros did lose Kyle Tucker yesterday. Nasty foul ball right off the shin. Tried to stay in the game, just couldn't put any weight on it. X-rays came back negative, so hopefully he's not out too long. A little bit worried it could be like a deep bone bruise or something where he might miss some time. But anyway, he's out tonight. And so, yeah, obviously a bit of a watered down Astros lineup. Not enough, even close to enough, frankly, for me to jump on the Piante train. But what are you doing with Arrighetti, Boyd? I think that's a pretty big question on this slate, frankly. So talk to us, Astros and Cardinals.
Yeah, Arrighetti seems like the guy who's going to gain steam and become more and more popular as we get close to lock here, as people are looking for a cheaper pitcher. And he's pitched better of late, coming off his best outing. Ugly 5.98 ERA, but like the expected stuff is all around 4. He's got a 375 batting average on balls in play, which I didn't check. That's probably close to leading the league. That's super unlucky. And he's a talented prospect. I know I have some friends who are Astros fans. They were excited when he got called up. He's got some talent. And the matchup here, I don't think it's as easy as people probably would have said a couple weeks ago. Like I said, the Cardinals offense has been red hot over the last couple weeks, especially against right-handed pitching. They're still striking out a bunch. 5th highest strikeout rate, but 2nd highest weighted runs created plus. You kind of see it with like the new look of their lineup. They got Gorman back, like you said. Burleson's back. I think the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to play some Arrighetti, probably not in my main. But then I've been leaving the St. Louis lefties in for mini stacks like Burleson, Gorman, Donovan, guys like that. They're cheap enough, and they've been doing damage. So I'm keeping the Cardinals secondary stacks in play here. I think Houston's the side, though, despite losing Kyle Tucker. They did call up Cabbage, so I think he'll be out for a couple days here. Cabbage isn't starting. I was kind of hoped that he would because he's 2K, but the lineup is super cheap. They got Abreu back. He's 2,800. Dubon's in the lineup, who's been smashing left-handed pitching. Is hitting 9th. He's cheap. Diaz hit a bomb last night, finally. Jake Myers has been really good for them. They bumped him up to the 4th spot. This is a super cheap lineup. I think that you could play Houston with 2 top arms against a pitcher who gets a lot of ground balls, but also extremely high walk rate at every level that he's ever pitched at. I could see this going south for him, especially against a patient team like the Astros. Jordan has finally started to hit. He got off to a super slow start to the season, but he's been smashing for about a week now, and his price keeps going down. It's down to 5,100 here. Yeah, he's hitting 380 with a 1,115 OPS over his last 10 games with 3 bombs. So I think Houston goes pretty much entirely overlooked on this slate. And at these price tags, I have a ton of interest against a pitcher who I don't have much confidence that he can repeat what he just did, and is very wild with not a great bullpen behind him.
Yeah, we know for sure Andre Piante is not any good. I don't think that much is really up for debate. So those are the pitchers I like to kind of sack against, just in general. not necessarily the rookies who could be good. We don't know for sure, but the guys who have had their chances and just can't get the job done and are making starts out of necessity. Guys like Payante, Chris Flexen, who, listen, of course, they're still capable of, not getting blown up at any given time or even having a good start. But the ones you can be confident in long term are going to be very poor. Payante, for me, is certainly in that bucket. So, hey, I don't mind that Houston call at all. I don't think I'm going to get there tonight, but certainly understand it. And they'll definitely be low owned. So that's St. Louis and Houston. We'll keep it moving. We got Coors Field coming up next. Ty Block, lefty for Colorado. I don't know how this man still has a ERA of 4.15. Feels like that's 2 or 3 runs shy of where it should probably be. To me, he is not usable, even at 5K, even against this Reds team. No Ty Block. I don't think you have to go to the Reds here, but yeah, they do look like pretty good plays. Favorite for me would be kind of that 3-man in the middle: Steer, Stevenson, Jonathan India, 4, 5, 6 hitters are my 3 favorite, and they're all hitting right together. So I'll probably have a couple mini stacks there. And then Frankie Montas pitching for Cincinnati. We've reached the DC's terrible punt pitching plays that he wishes he could just lose money on himself instead of recommending him on the show, point of the show. But yeah, Frankie Montas going to be on some of my lineups here. Hard to justify it really based on this year's numbers. But yeah, I mean, I was digging for cheap pitchers today, and we'll get to Mitch Spence coming up here in a couple games, who's my favorite. But Montas is second. I'll take the ownership discount between him and Arrighetti. I think he's better than he's shown. He does have not that long ago of a track record of being a decent pitcher. And the biggest thing is the matchup here against the Rockies, who, man, these guys strike out a lot, just not good hitters at all. Like, the only good hitter in this entire lineup against right-handed pitching is Ryan McMahon, who's not, exactly a world beater. And he's got a 30% strikeout rate against righties himself. Montas, he's got a few things going for him. Number one, I know it's Coors Field is the big knock, and same, his own skill level, but it is a good matchup, really good matchup outside of the park. The Reds, they've got a terrible bullpen behind him. They let him pitch. He's thrown the last 3 games, 107, 94, 98 pitches. The velocity has been there. He's throwing 95, 96 on the fastball. I think, the strikeouts could be there against this Rockies team. He's 6K, looking like he might be around 5% owned. You'll get some leverage. I'm sure the Rockies will be at least somewhat popular tonight. So, yeah, Montas, again, will I be surprised if he drops a -10 on my head? Of course not. But I do think he's got a pretty decent shot at 12 to 15 fantasy points, which I would absolutely sign up for on this slate at 6K and try to win it with bats, which I do think at the end of the day, it's going to be bats that win this slate, as it frankly is on most slates. So Frankie Montas, if you want to join me, he will be in a decent portion of my lineups. And I'll go down with that ship if that's the way it goes. But I won't be surprised if Frankie Montas ends up on the winner tonight. I don't think you're joining me on this one, Steve. So talk some sense into the people on Frankie Montas.
Man, he is throwing hard. I stacked against him last start. He comes out of the gate just slinging gas. I was actually a bit concerned when I stacked against him last time. He's had a couple usable outings in tough spots. Like, he went to Philly and pitched well.
He doesn't look hopeless out there. I don't know. Go ahead.
For a cheap guy, I'd rather a guy like him who throws hard as shit than like a soft tossing lefty, just hoping that every piss missile finds a glove.
Exactly.
We've seen the Rockies suck at Coors basically all season. We saw it pretty much last night. So he didn't make my cut, but man, at 6K, I don't mind it just because of all the great spots that we do have on the slate. We do have both lineups here in Coors. The Reds have a guy that I wasn't aware of done hitting 8th. It doesn't look like he's in the DraftKings pool though. But yeah, like this is my issue with playing Reds last night. They're just so goddamn expensive. The entire lineup, like you get Luke Maile at 3K, and that's like the only guy that's cheap. I guess Fairchild starting here, but he's a pinch hit risk, obviously. The Reds have been better against lefties. You're not scared of block at all. I will say Ellie De La Cruz has struggled pretty mightily against left-handed pitching this season. But if you're playing him, he's probably getting multiple at-bats against the bullpen anyway. So wouldn't worry too much about that. I'm probably not stacking Coors tonight. I just like these other spots a ton. Like we talked about the Yankees, Baltimore, Houston, the Cubs. I like all those a good bit. So, and then we'll get to the Arizona game. I think is really sneaky later. So I'll be under the field on Coors here. It sounds like you will be as well. I'm not sure if I'm going to join you on Montas, but I do get the play. Like you're playing him or you're playing a 20+% Arrighetti who has a 6-year ERA, or you're playing Mitch Spence. It's not like you're clicking him over guys that we're falling over ourselves to play. So,
well, I had to crack a couple White Claws before the show, knowing that Frankie Montas on a number of my rosters is coming later. So we got started early. We'll be nice and lubed up for the Montas disaster that I'm sure is going to happen. That's Cincinnati, Colorado, Coors Field. Obviously, big decisions to make there. Let's get out to the West Coast. 3 more games to talk about: San Diego and the LA Angels. First up, we've got rookie pitcher Adam Mazur, MLB debut, I believe, for Mr. Mazur. It's been hit pretty hard at AAA, an ERA over 7 over 4 starts there. Was pitching well in AA, and his numbers look okay other than the ERA. Decent strikeout rate, doesn't walk anybody, and he does get the Angels. I don't know what he did, Steve, to earn a $7,700 opening price tag from DraftKings. If he was 4K, I would be in on some Adam Mazur. I can't pay $7,700 though for him here, even against the Angels. So I'm not going there. No interest at all in Sandoval. I do think the Padres stack is pretty intriguing against Sandoval. That middle of the order, Tatis, Profar, Machado, maybe Solano, if he's in there in the 5-hole, looks pretty good. And then, so no pitchers here on DraftKings. I did get some questions in Discord about Mazur on FanDuel, which I don't think is the worst option. He's super cheap there, and you could load up on Judge and Soto and Coors Field. So I think you could do it there. Wouldn't do it on DraftKings. And then, I'm not crazy about the Angels side here, but I think you could do worse. I don't know. Kind of lukewarm on this game. I'll have some exposure to the Padres. No interest in the pitchers, at least on DK. What do you got for us, Steve, Padres and Angels?
Angels had like that 10-day run where they were smashing, and they've done absolutely nothing since that.
It's crazy how baseball. I mean, there's so much just variance.
So
it's crazy.
When I saw that the Padres were starting this guy, I was like, "Fuck yeah, we're gonna get a 4K starter against this dead ass Angels team." We're gonna play Yankees. We're gonna play all the bats, and open the slate, and he's 7,700. That was pretty annoying. He isn't in play. I think Sandoval is at least in discussion, right? Like we're gonna get Arrighetti probably 20% owned. Sandoval's gonna be way lower than that. Talented arm with strikeout upside, just walks a ton of people. His price is super cheap here at home against a lineup that doesn't have basically any power. 28th in ISO versus left-handed pitching this season. The ERA is high, 5.34, but so is Arrighetti's. It's basically the same thing. Like both guys have serious positive regression coming their way. Sandoval's estimators 4.09, expected ERA 3.85 xFIP, both lower than Arrigetti's. His strikeout rate's higher. He has a high BABIP too and a high strand rate. I think they're pretty similar plays, and like we've seen Sandoval do it before. I think he's an interesting pivot if you're playing multiple lineups down low. Like instead of just having all your cheap guys be Arrigetti and Spence, basically because I don't have a ton of faith in either of those guys. I'm going to be splitting it between the three guys, Sandoval.
Give me Montas straight up over Patrick Sandoval, Boyden.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. Sandoval versus Montas. We'll pay it out on the Friday show.
Yeah, we got a Chicago trip coming up. First bar we hit up. That'll be a spendy ticket in Chicagoland for Sandoval versus Montas. But mark it down. I'm down to make that wager. Anything else here on Mazer and Sandoval besides your donkey Sandoval call?
No, for how shitty the arms are, I'm not playing any bats in this spot.
Get out of here, Uncle T. Take a lap. All right. Next game on the slate, San Francisco and the Arizona Diamondbacks. Pretty much a pick 'em in terms of the betting line. We do have Blake Walston and Kyle Harrison here. Two lefties on the hill. Kyle Harrison, a guy who can kind of get away with his pitching style sometimes in San Francisco with that cavernous park. I don't know if he's going to do it here. I like these Diamondbacks righty hitters. They've smashed lefties all year long. We do have the lineup for them. I mean, Marte, Gurriel, Walker, Grichuk, Suarez, Moreno, cheap catcher hitting second. You don't mind that. So I am in on the Snakes bats here. And I don't think we have the lineup for the Giants yet, at least that I've seen. But assuming it's as expected, I think they're interesting as well. Blake Walston going to make his third big league appearance of the year. He's been okay through his first two, but I would expect him to struggle against right-handed power in particular going forward. And the Giants have some guys who can do some damage against lefties. Elliot Ramos has hit pretty well. He's 3,200, projected to be leading off. Matt Chapman on an absolute heater right now. We've seen runs from him like this before. He's a guy that you want when he's hot, swinging it well. I really, really like Matt Chapman. Should be fairly low owned today. Jorge Soler, longtime lefty masher. Luis Matos. Casey Schmidt is super cheap if he's in the lineup at 2,400. If you want to spend on pitching, right? If you want the whatever it is, the Luis Heel, Max Fried combination, I think you could do worse than this Giants team against a inexperienced, frankly, probably not very good rookie lefty. Been kind of talking myself into some of these Giants all day. We'll see what their lineup ultimately looks like, but I think I'm in on some of these guys at least. And really both sides. I think we could see runs here in Arizona. Over to you, Steve, for Giants and D-backs.
Yeah, my first bet of the day was the over in this game. I like both sides.
Yeah.
The Giants have been hitting lefties of late as well, top 5 in both weighted runs created plus and ISO in the last month. Ramos has been a big part of that. He's still cheap. I actually played him last night. Hit a monster, like opposite field, 420-foot bomb. He's got
big boy power. Ramos does.
Yeah. I will note Estrada missed yesterday and I think Sunday too. We don't have the lineup yet. If he misses, it's just another super cheap bat because I think Wisely would start at second and he's super cheap. I think that this team here, DC, works really well for secondary stacks. Like if you want to pay up for pitcher with an expensive stack, you use 2 or 3 Giants here, and I think that they just fit that mold pretty well. I'm with you on Arizona. We've been on a bunch of these shows talking about Arizona against lefties. They've struggled a bit of late, but I don't expect that to continue. It's brought the price tags down across the board here on everyone that's not Ketel Marte or Christian Walker. So I really like this game. I'm going to be over the field on both sides for the bats here. So yeah, that's kind of why I'm lower on cores, is because I think that there are sneaky spots outside of cores and the Cubs on this slate.
Definitely. a lot of offenses I think you can go to, and Giants, D-backs certainly make the cut for me as well. Seattle and Oakland, last game on the slate. We've got Mitch Spence pitching for the Oakland A's. He's been actually pretty solid, and 2 of his last 3 kind of made the transition from the bullpen to the starting rotation. And he's got some pretty good outings, even out of the bullpen on the year. And overall, his numbers look okay to me. He is going to be, Mitch Spence, my highest owned pitcher on this slate at 6,500 against a strikeout-happy Mariners team. I saw you just give a shake and a deep breath there, Steve. So maybe you're not on the Mitch Spence train, but, man, I've been picking on this Mariners team all season long and will continue to do so. I actually think Spence, I think he's okay. Montas, honestly, it's more of a price matchup play. Spence obviously is both of those as well, but I do think Mitch Spence has some staying power as a decent starting pitcher in this league. Throw in the price and the matchup, and yeah, I'm in on Mitch Spence here, willing to go down with that train. Saber has him still really low owned. I don't think that's going to prove true. What do you think Mitch Spence ultimately comes in at, say, on the flagship ownership wise, DK Steve?
5 to 8%. It's just like Eric Getty's a full strikeout above him for basically the same price in the K prop. So anyone that uses projections is just going to click Eric Getty for 200 more. I actually like Spence more. That's why I was sighing. I was hoping you'd talk me out of playing this fucking guy.
No, I've been on Mitch Spence since I don't know 8 a.m. this morning, and I haven't found anything to move me off yet. So I'm riding the Mitch Spence train myself. Again, certainly not safe. Yeah, I guess I'm so convinced on this guy. I just can't believe that he's going to be solo owned. But hey, that's even better. So
where are you on the other side? Like Kirby versus Fried versus Flaherty in that price range?
I rank it Fried, Kirby, Flaherty. Kirby, I mean, he just seems pretty safe. He does get just crushed by the long ball from time to time, but he seems to do way better, obviously, when he pitches at home, but just also on the West Coast in general, in these spacious ballparks where, home runs, it is going to be hot in Oakland tonight. I'm actually a little bit worried about that, but where home runs kind of go to die. And then the massive, spacious territory and that foul territory in Oakland, I think is a big benefit to a guy like Kirby, who does give up fly balls, lets guys put the ball in play. I just think he's going to be okay here. And then it is kind of similar to Fried too, right? Where it's like the strikeout matchup against Oakland is so good that it helps a lot because that's his weakness, right? Is kind of the K percentage. It just doesn't match up with some of the other aces in the league. But against Oakland, you can get those strikeouts. So I like Kirby. I do have him a little bit behind Fried, a little bit ahead of Flaherty, but I do think it's very close between those three. I will have exposure to all 3 guys, but not as much as I have to Mitch Spence, who I'll be the late night hammer. Mitch Spence doesn't feel super great, knowing that's hopefully coming down the pipe. Maybe it won't matter at that point, but I'm hoping to need a big outing from Spence to get to the top tonight. It sounds like you're kind of in on both these guys as well.
Yeah, same. We have some people in the chat saying that it's hot in Oakland. It's not hot. It's going to be mid to high 60s during this game. So I'm not too concerned there. I like both arms. Spence has looked good so far. He's cheap. This is the price range that I want my SP2 in. I think Eric Getty's just has a way tougher matchup than Spence does here. People have been streaming pitchers against, Oakland or against Seattle pretty much for a month straight, and they're not going to do it here in Oakland. It just kind of seems weird.
I think they're going to do it. I know you. I don't know. I think he's going to be higher owned than people think, but I'm still playing him.
I still think he's definitely going to be lower than Eric Getty overall.
Definitely. Yes.
Just because of strikeout prop. So I'm on both arms here. I think Kirby. So stuff like this is all you see on Twitter is that Kirby's bad on the road. He's bad when he leaves huge ballparks is what it is. It's not on the road, like because of the way he pitches. Like, when he goes to Baltimore, when he goes to Washington, when he goes to Cincy, yeah, of course he's gonna get shit on. But Seattle and Oakland, I have a ton of confidence in Kirby here. He's shown strikeout upside in certain matchups. Oakland was dangerous for a bit. They've kind of predictably come back to earth, but they're still striking out at that high rate. Second highest strikeout rate in baseball over the last month to only Seattle. So I'm on both arms here. I will have 0 bats. I have it Fried and then Kirby and then Flaherty. But I think Flaherty is like the best like tournament play of the three, like the riskiest boom bust-ish guy, I guess. But I do like all three. I'll be over the field on all three of those guys.
I'm playing all three as well. And maybe we need to rip the condom off and get Flaherty up there because he is the strikeout artist of the three, clearly. That's all 10 games. Let's get to the good stuff here at the end of the show. Favorite stack, favorite contrarian stack. We'll give you first shot at this one, Steve. Go ahead.
Yeah, my favorite stack, I feel like I do it a lot on the show, is the Yankees. I'm going to play them against any non-elite right-handed pitcher. And what do we have tonight? Basically a non-elite right-handed pitcher that also gives up a ton of fly balls. Yes, Soto and Judge are expensive, but, we're playing Mitch Spence. So, so this is how we fit these guys. I'm going to continue to ride the Yankees. They've been really, really good to me this season.
It's not going to feel great if you get 6,300 Judge and Soto that don't do much, and you got like, oh, maybe Mitch Spence can pitch me back into the cash. Like,
no, I'm not even watching that Oakland game if Soto and Judge. So you don't even need to
log out and go watch some Netflix. My favorite stack is the Cubs. They will be chalky, but awesome spot against Chris Flexen, and then obviously getting a little bit different at pitching myself, so I feel like I can play some of that chalk. And then contrarian stack's going to be the Giants against Blake Walston. Talked in depth about them. No lineup yet, but I think they could do some real damage here. Matt Chapman, one of my favorite plays on the slate overall. I guess I could have saved that for 2 more minutes while we get to our favorite plays, but there you go. Let's get to most important pitcher.
I didn't do my contrarian stack. My contrarian stack's Houston, by the way.
Okay. Houston against Pianta. Yeah, hard to argue with that one. I like that. Most important pitcher for me, it's Mitch Spence and or Frankie
How do you
Montas.
not take Frankie Montas with that? It's got to be Montas. It's got to be most
I'm going to have plenty of both. I'm going to have more Spence and Montas, but I do think right now Sabres got them projected at the same ownership. That's hard for me to believe. But yeah, if that's the case, it'll be Spence who's most important. But I could see Montas coming in like 2% and Spence being like 12 or 15 or something, in which case it would be Montas would be my most important. But I will have, sadly, plenty of lineups that pair them together here. Yes. Can you play Spence? Well, I certainly am.
Yeah, DC will be doing it.
Yeah. So there you go. Boyd, your most important pitcher tonight.
I'm going to go with Flaherty. I think that he's going to kind of get squeezed on this slate. I'll definitely be well over the field on him. I'm seeing under 20%. I'll be probably 30 plus on Flaherty. I just love the strikeout upside. I'm not as scared of this Texas lineup as most people are.
Make sure you go to the gas station before the slate starts to fill up my gas can, I assume, with Spence. I think that's the joke there. Correct me if I'm wrong, in Westlake. Let's get to what is next? Home run call. Ooh, plenty to choose from here. Can I take the free square? I'm taking the free square. Aaron Judge, come on down. Going yard off Bailey over. Go ahead, Billy Boyden.
I'll go with something a bit off the board, a guy that we talked about at the end of the show. I'll go back to Ramos for the Giants. Just big power. Probably going to hit leadoff tonight. And I'll have a ton of the Giants secondary stacks that will be centered around Ramos.
Love the Ramos call. I'm going to give out. I'm going to give out Matt Chapman for the home run call. Judge will go yard 2, but Matt Chapman a little bit way more off the board than Judge is. Favorite overall hitter on the slate, Boyden, what do you got for us?
I'm going to ride the hot bat of Yordan Alvarez. No Tucker. He's going to have to carry this team probably throughout this week. He's finally starting to come around, so I'll go with Yordan Alvarez.
Yordan Alvarez, love that. I will go with Ketel Marte leading off for the D-backs. 4,900 feels more than fair, crushes lefties, and I like this matchup for him against Kyle Harrison. That'll do it for this show. Fun slate ahead. We do appreciate all you guys watching. Hit the like button on your way out if you have not yet done so. And yeah, hopefully see some RPS logos up top. Hopefully some of you guys have some good nights. This show will be back at the normal time, same place tomorrow. That'll do it for us. For Steve Boyden, I'm Draft Cheat. We're out of here.